My breath caught as I stared at the eviction notice, pinned to my cabin door with a rusty nail, the ink smearing like it was mocking me. 3 armed guards had left at dawn, their boots still etched in the dirt outside. "Get out in 48 hours, or we'll burn your stuff," their note warned. This was my grandpa's lake cabin, my only tie to him, and the HOA thought they could steal it. But I'd uncover their $3 million scam and make them choke on their own lies. If you love stories where bullies get crushed, smash that subscribe button. This one's for every homeowner they've trampled. I'm James Carter, a tax analyst from Minneapolis. 4 months ago, I inherited Grandpa Henry's cabin at Clearwater Lake, Minnesota. As a kid, I spent summers there, fishing with him until I was 16, when my parents' divorce tore our traditions apart. Grandpa died at 90 last fall, and I hadn't visited in 15 years. After a rough work year, I needed peace, so I drove up to see my inheritance and feel those old memories again. The 3-hour drive soothed me. City roads gave way to fields, then dense pine forests and sparkling lakes. The air smelled sharp, like pine and water. When I turned onto the dirt road to the cabin, my heart lifted. Through the trees, I saw the shoreline and the small A-frame cabin, exactly as I left it. The wooden walls smelled of campfires and summers. The old couch sagged where Grandpa and I played cards on rainy days. Dusty fishing rods hung on the wall. That first night, I sat on the porch with a soda, watching the lake turn red as the sun set. For the first time in years, I felt calm. I fell asleep planning repairs, new porch boards, a fresh coat of paint, maybe even the dock Grandpa always wanted. But at 5 a.m., I woke to heavy boots stomping outside. I opened the door to 3 guards in black uniforms, one holding a clipboard. "James Carter," he barked. "Clearwater Lake HOA says you're trespassing. You've got 48 hours to pack up or face a $30,000 fine." He shoved a thick envelope at me. My stomach dropped. "There's a mistake," I said, voice shaky. "My grandpa owned this place for 60 years. The guard just smirked. "Talk to Mrs. Larson at the HOA office. Opens at 8. They climbed into a shiny SUV with Clearwater Lake HOA in bold letters and drove off. I stood there in my pajamas, clutching the papers, my mind racing. This wasn't the quiet lake community I knew as a kid. Still reeling, I walked to the small dock by the lake. Grandpa's old rowboat sat under a tarp, the wood creaking under my feet. I'd spent hours here listening to his stories. How could anyone say this wasn't mine? As I stared at the water, an old man approached from the next cabin. "You Henry's grandson?" he asked, offering a hand. "I'm Tom Wilson, your grandpa's fishing buddy for 50 years. His face darkened when I told him about the guards. "That's Nancy Larson's work," he said, voice low. "She's run the HOA for 4 years, acting like she owns the lake. Been pushing out old cabin owners for her fancy condos. Your grandpa fought her until he got sick." I spent the morning reading the eviction papers. They claimed my cabin sat 60 feet onto HOA land, calling it a safety risk. It was nonsense meant to scare me, but it worked. My chest tightened at the thought of losing Grandpa's cabin. Later, at the dock, I noticed fresh scratches on the posts, like boats had been tied there. "Tom," I called, "did someone use my dock?" He snorted. "Nancy's been renting it to tourists for $250 a weekend. Prime spot, deep water, good fishing. She's made thousands since your grandpa passed." Anger burned in me. Not only were they trying to take my cabin, but they'd been profiting off it. That night, I found a dusty box under the cabin's floorboards, labeled Clearwater Survey. "Keep safe," in Grandpa's neat handwriting. Inside were a 1958 survey, property deeds, and a journal. The survey showed my land stretched to the lake, with 80 feet of shoreline, way more than the HOA claimed. Why had Grandpa hidden this? And why did their map lie? I drove to town to copy the documents, my mind buzzing with questions. The journal had notes about property lines and fights with the HOA. One entry from 5 years back stopped me cold. Nancy Larson offered to buy my lot for condos. Lowballed me. When I said no, she hinted at new rules to make my cabin illegal. I'm ready for her. My heart raced. Grandpa knew they'd come for me. I had to fight back not just for me, but for him. A cold sweat trickled down my neck as I found a hidden camera nailed to my porch, its red light blinking like it was watching my every move. The HOA wasn't just after my cabin. They were spying on me, waiting for a slip-up. But I'd turned their sneaky game into their worst nightmare. If you're hooked on stories where the underdog flips the script, hit subscribe. This fight's just heating up. Back at the cabin, I clutched Grandpa Henry's survey, my only weapon against Nancy Larson's lies. The documents proved I owned 80 feet of shoreline, but the HOA's map cut my land short. I needed answers. At the Clearwater Lake HOA office, a sleek building with glass walls, I met Nancy, a polished woman in her 40s, with a fake smile. "Mr. Carter," she said, barely looking up, "your cabin's on community land. Pay the $30,000 fine, or leave." I held up Grandpa's survey. "This says I own to the lake. Your map's wrong." Her smile tightened. "Old papers don't count. Our survey's official. See it at the county office." Her assistant, a guy named Greg, snapped photos of my car outside. "Parking violation," he muttered, handing me a $150 ticket. I left, fuming but determined. At the county office, I met Lisa Harper, a clerk who knew Grandpa. She pulled the latest records, her eyes widening. "James, your grandpa filed a reassessment last year. It confirms your land goes to the lake, and includes the cove where the HOA's new dock is." I stared, shocked. "Their dock? On my land?" Lisa nodded. "They've been renting it for millions. Nancy's condo project needs that cove." My mind spun. This wasn't just about my cabin. It was a $3 million land grab. Back home, I found a note taped to my door. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." My pulse raced. That night, I set up my own camera, hidden in a birdhouse, to catch any intruders. At 2 a.m., it recorded two men in HOA jackets tampering with my dock, loosening bolts. I called Tom Wilson, who rushed over. "That's Nancy's crew," he whispered. "They're making your dock unsafe to find you more." The next day, I confronted Nancy at her office. "I know about the cove," I said, holding up the county papers. "It's mine and so's your dock." Her face paled, but she laughed. "You're delusional. That reassessment's fake. Leave, or we'll tow your car." As I left, Greg followed me, snapping more photos. I noticed his jacket had a logo, Larson Realty. Nancy wasn't just HOA president. She owned the condo company. At the cabin, I found my water shut off. A notice claimed emergency repairs for a month. I bought a water filter and kept going. Then, a bigger twist hit. In Grandpa's journal, I found a letter from him. "James, the HOA's been after our land since I said no to their deal. The cove's the key. My old friend, Judge Ellis, knows the truth. Find him." My heart leapt. Judge Ellis? A judge could crush Nancy. I called the county courthouse and learned Judge Robert Ellis, Grandpa's friend, was still active. I left a message, hands trembling with hope. That evening, a woman knocked on my door. "I'm Sarah Miller, your neighbor," she said. "I'm a lawyer. Tom told me you're fighting Nancy. I got fined $5,000 for my shed being too close to the line. I want to help." Over coffee, Sarah shared how Nancy had harassed her for years. "She's scared now," Sarah said. "Your county papers spooked her, but she'll fight dirty." As we talked, my camera buzzed. Footage showed Nancy herself sneaking onto my dock, planting a broken board labeled hazard. I grinned at Sarah. We've got her. But the next morning, my car was gone, towed by the HOA for unregistered parking. A new fine arrived, $2,000. Nancy was hitting hard, but I had Judge Ellis, Sarah, and the truth. I just needed to stay one step ahead. My stomach twisted as I found a dead fish nailed to my cabin door, its glassy eyes staring like a warning from the HOA. The smell hit me hard, but it lit a fire inside. I'd make Nancy Larson pay for every dirty trick. If you love watching bullies crash and burn, hit that subscribe button. This story's about to explode. After my car got towed, I was furious but focused. Sarah Miller, my lawyer neighbor, and I watched the footage of Nancy planting the broken board on my dock. It was proof she was framing me. "We need more," Sarah said. "She'll claim it's not her." I nodded, thinking of Judge Ellis. His office called back that morning. "Judge Ellis wants to meet," his assistant said. "He knew your grandpa well. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Hope surged, but I kept it quiet. At the cabin, I found my power cut off, another HOA emergency. A note warned of a $10,000 fine for unsafe wiring. I bought a generator and called Tom Wilson. "Nancy's desperate," he said. "She knows you're on to her." He handed me a folder. "This is for Mike Evans, an HOA board member. He's sick of her." Inside were bank statements showing $800,000 funneled from HOA fees to Larson Realty. My tax analyst brain kicked in. This was embezzlement. "Mike's scared," Tom added. "Nancy threatened his house if he talked." I met Mike at a diner, a nervous guy in his 50s. "I'll testify if you protect me," he whispered. "Nancy's been skimming dues for her condos. That dock you own? It's her cash cow, $1 million in rentals." My jaw dropped. The cove was bigger than I thought. Back home, I found my mailbox smashed, paper scattered. A new notice claimed my cabin violated fire codes and demanded $15,000. I was running out of time. That night, Sarah and I planned our move. "We confront her at the HOA meeting in 2 days," she said. "Show the footage, the bank records, everything." As we spoke, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Drop this, or your cabin burns." I showed Sarah. "Nancy's losing it," she said. The next morning, I drove to meet Judge Ellis. His office was old, stacked with files. "Henry was my best friend," he said, eyes sharp. "He told me about Nancy's land grab years ago. Your cove's the heart of her condo plan. Show me your proof." I handed over the survey, bank statements, and camera footage. He nodded. "This is enough to bury her. I'll back you at the meeting." My heart raced. Judge Ellis was my ace. But as I left, I saw Greg, Nancy's assistant, watching from a car. He sped off when I waved. Back at the cabin, I found my generator stolen and a new camera on my porch. They weren't stopping. I called Lisa Harper at the county office. "Can you confirm the cove's mine in writing?" I asked. She hesitated. "Nancy's been pressuring my boss, but I'll get it done." That afternoon, a bigger twist hit. Tom called, panicked. "Mike's gone. Packed up and left town. Said Nancy threatened his kids." My stomach sank. Without Mike, the bank records might not stick. Sarah stayed calm. "We've got the footage and Judge Ellis. It's enough." But doubt crept in. That evening, I found a hidden note in Grandpa's journal. "If they come for the cove, check the dock's foundation." I left proof. I grabbed a flashlight and rode to the dock. Under the water, bolted to a post, was a waterproof box. Inside was a 1960 deed signed by the county, giving Grandpa the entire cove, including the HOA's dock. My hands shook. This was dynamite. As I rowed back, headlights flashed. Greg and 2 HOA guards stood on my shore. "You're done, Carter," Greg yelled. "Hand over those papers, or we take them." I hid the deed in my jacket and faced them, heart pounding. "Try it," I said, gripping my flashlight like a weapon. They stepped closer, but Sarah's car pulled up, headlights blazing. "Back off," she shouted, phone out, recording. The guards froze, then bolted. Sarah grinned. "Got it all. This'll kill Nancy at the meeting." But as we walked back, a new notice was nailed to my door. "Eviction tomorrow, 6 a.m. Nancy was going all in. I had 1 day to turn this around. My chest tightened as I clutched the old photo of Grandpa Henry and me fishing, found in the deed box, its edges worn from his hands. The HOA's eviction threat loomed, but this picture reminded me why I fought, for family, for memories. I'd make Nancy Larson rue the day she targeted my cabin. If you love stories where heart fuels revenge, hit subscribe. This one's personal. After Sarah scared off Greg and the guards, we sat in my dark cabin, lit by a lantern since the power was still out. The 1960 deed was our trump card, proving I owned the cove and the HOA's dock. "This changes everything," Sarah said, her eyes bright. "Nancy's condo deal collapses without that dock." I nodded, but the 6 a.m. eviction notice weighed heavy. "They're coming tomorrow," I said. "We need the HOA meeting to stop them." Sarah squeezed my arm. We've got Judge Ellis, the footage, and the deed. We'll win. Her confidence lifted me, but I saw worry in her eyes. She'd lost her brother to a shady land deal years ago. She told me earlier. This fight was personal for her too. At dawn, I met Tom Wilson by the lake. His hands shook as he handed me a USB drive. This is from Karen Lee, another neighbor, he said. Emails between Nancy and her lawyer, plotting to fake violations on your cabin. I stared, stunned. Why is Karen helping now? Tom sighed. Nancy fined her $8,000 for her dog barking. She's fed up. The emails showed Nancy's lawyer, Paul Reed, advising her to bury Carter in fines to force me out. My anger flared. Nancy wasn't just greedy. She was evil. Back at the cabin, I found my front door kicked in, mud tracked inside. A note read, "Last warning, Carter." My fishing rods were snapped in half, Grandpa's old tackle box smashed. Tears stung my eyes. This was my home, my past. I called Sarah, voice breaking. They trashed the place. She arrived in minutes, hugging me tight. They're scared, James. We're close. We cleaned up, salvaging what we could. Sarah found a carved wooden fish Grandpa made me when I was 10, cracked but whole. He'd be proud, she said softly. I held it, feeling him with me. That afternoon, I drove to the HOA meeting hall to prepare. A crowd of neighbors gathered outside, whispering. An older woman, Ellen Brooks, approached. "You're Henry's boy?" she asked. "I owe him. He helped me keep my cabin when my husband died. Nancy's been fining us all $3,000 for my flowers, $5,000 for a fence." Her voice cracked. "We're with you." My throat tightened. This wasn't just my fight anymore. Inside, I met Judge Ellis, who reviewed the deed. "This is ironclad," he said. "Nancy's in deep trouble." But as we spoke, Greg burst in, smirking. "Carter, your cabin's being boarded up right now. Should have left." I ran outside, Sarah and Tom behind me. At the cabin, 2 HOA workers were nailing plywood over my windows. "Stop," I yelled. They ignored me until Sarah flashed her lawyer badge. "This is illegal," she snapped. They backed off, muttering. Back at the hall, the meeting started. Nancy stood at the podium, all smiles. "Mr. Carter's cabin violates our rules," she said. "We're protecting the community." I stood, holding the deed. "You're lying, Nancy. I own the cove and your dock." Gasps filled the room. Nancy's face froze. "That's nonsense," she stammered. I played the footage of her planting the board. Neighbors booed. "She fined me for my mailbox," one shouted. "My car got towed for nothing," yelled another. Nancy's lawyer, Paul, tried to calm her, but she snapped, "Shut up, Paul." Judge Ellis stood. "I've seen the deed. Carter's land is legal." Nancy explained these emails. I showed Karen's USB on the projector. The crowd roared as Nancy's lies unraveled. But she wasn't done. "You'll never win," she hissed at me. "I've got friends in high places." As the meeting ended, a new twist hit. Lisa Harper called. "James, Nancy's filed an emergency injunction to block your deed. It's with a judge she knows." My heart sank. Nancy was pulling strings. Sarah grabbed my hand. "We'll fight this. Together." I looked at the photo of Grandpa and me, vowing to finish what he started. My heart skipped as I found Grandpa's old pocket knife stabbed into my porch rail, a crumpled note tied to it. "You're next, Carter." Nancy Larson's threats were closing in, but that knife, Grandpa's favorite, felt like his way of saying, "Fight back." I'd make her regret crossing me. If you love stories where the good guy swings hard, hit subscribe. This one's a knockout. After the HOA meeting, Nancy's injunction news hit like a punch. Sarah and I huddled in my cabin, the lantern flickering. "Her judge friend's dirty," Sarah said. "But Judge Ellis is tougher. He'll counter it." I gripped Grandpa's photo, the one of us fishing. "I can't lose this place," I said. Sarah's eyes softened. "You won't. My brother lost his home to crooks like Nancy. I'm in this for you and him." Her words grounded me. We weren't just neighbors now, we were family in this fight. The next morning, Tom Wilson banged on my door. "James, check this." He showed me a text from Karen Lee. "Found Nancy's ledger in the HOA trash. She's been skimming $1.2 million. My jaw dropped. Karen met us at the dock, nervous. It lists fake fines, dock rentals, everything, she said, handing over a battered notebook. My tax analyst skills kicked in. Every entry screamed fraud. This'll destroy her, I said. But as we talked, a boat roared up. Greg, Nancy's assistant, jumped out. Give me that ledger or you're done, he snarled, grabbing Karen's arm. I shoved him back. Touch her again, and you're swimming home. He glared, but backed off when Sarah started recording. You're dead, Carter, he spat, speeding away. Back at the cabin, we found another twist. The ledger had a sticky note. Meet D at County, 8 p.m. Sarah frowned. D's probably David Holt, Nancy's real estate partner. He's got a rap sheet. We drove to the county office, hiding in my truck. At 8 p.m., Nancy met a man, David. Carter's deed is real, she hissed. If Ellis backs him, my condos are toast. David laughed. Pay the right judge, and it's gone. My blood boiled. Sarah recorded every word. But then, my phone rang. Lisa Harper. James, Nancy's crew is at your cabin, tearing up the dock. I sped back, heart racing. 2 HOA workers were ripping boards off my dock. Stop. I yelled. They froze, then ran when Sarah flashed her badge. The dock was a mess, but I found a metal plate under a plank, engraved. H. Carter, 1960, Clearwater Cove owner. Grandpa had marked his claim. I hugged Sarah, tears in my eyes. He's still helping me. That night, Judge Ellis called. Nancy's injunction's weak, but she's got pull. Bring the ledger and plate tomorrow. I'll handle her, Judge. Hope flared, but danger wasn't far. At 3 a.m., my cabin's smoke alarm blared. Someone had lit a rag by my door. I doused it coughing and found another note, last chance. Sarah stayed over, both of us too rattled to sleep. She's unhinged, Sarah said. But we've got her cornered. The next day, Ellen Brooks and other neighbors showed up. We're done with Nancy, Ellen said. She fined my grandson $2,000 for skateboarding. We're testifying. Their stories, towed cars, fake fines, threats, fueled me. But the biggest twist came when Lisa texted. Nancy's judge recused himself. Ellis is taking over. I punched the air. Nancy's plan was crumbling. At the courthouse, we prepped with Judge Ellis. Her fraud's clear, he said. But she'll lie. As we left, Greg's SUV tailed us. I swerved, losing him, but my hand shook. Sarah grabbed my arm. We're close, James. Stay strong. I nodded, thinking of Grandpa's knife. Nancy was desperate, but so was I. The hearing was tomorrow, and I'd bring everything, ledger, deed, plate, and the truth. My pulse raced as I found Grandpa's old fishing hat hanging on my cabin door, slashed with a knife, like Nancy Larson was carving up my memories. It wasn't just a threat, it was personal, and I'd make her pay for touching his things. If you love stories where heart wins over hate, hit subscribe. This one's a battle for family. The courthouse hearing was hours away, and Sarah and I were ready with the deed, ledger, and dock plate. But Nancy's fire stunt shook us. She's scared, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the bags under her eyes. That's why she's hitting low. I nodded, clutching Grandpa's photo. Losing the cabin meant losing him all over again. At 6 a.m., Tom Wilson called, frantic. James, Nancy's at the HOA office, shredding papers. We raced over, finding Karen Lee outside, filming. She's destroying evidence, Karen whispered. Through the window, I saw Nancy and Greg tossing files into a shredder. Sarah called Judge Ellis, who sent a sheriff. The sheriff stormed in, stopping Nancy cold. Step back, Mrs. Larson, he barked. Nancy's face twisted. This is my office. But the sheriff bagged the remaining files. One paper fluttered out, a contract tying Larson Realty to a $3 million condo loan, dependent on my cove. My heart leapt. This was her motive. Back at the cabin, we found another twist. Ellen Brooks brought a neighbor, Tim Hayes, who'd worked for Nancy. I quit last week, Tim said. She told me to fake a water leak on your land to void your deed. His signed statement was gold. I've got kids, he added, eyes down. Couldn't do it. I shook his hand, grateful for his courage. But Nancy wasn't done. At noon, Lisa Harper called. James, Nancy's lawyer, filed a new claim, saying your grandpa forged the 1960 deed. My stomach dropped. That's a lie, I said. Lisa sighed. They've got a handwriting expert. You need more proof. I dug through Grandpa's box, finding a 1959 letter to the county, signed by him, matching the deed's signature. This'll shut them up, I told Sarah. She grinned, but her phone buzzed, a text from Greg. Back off or Sarah's next. Her face paled. He knows where I live, she whispered. I hugged her. We're in this together. That afternoon, neighbors packed my cabin, ready to testify. Ellen shared how Nancy fined her $4,000 for a birdhouse. Tim admitted towing cars for her, hating every second. Their stories humanize a fight, real people hurt by one woman's greed. But the biggest twist hit when Judge Ellis called. Nancy's offering a deal, drop the case, and she'll pay you $100,000. I laughed bitterly. She thinks I'll sell Grandpa's land. Ellis chuckled. Thought so. See you at 3 p.m. As we headed to the courthouse, Greg's SUV appeared again, swerving close. I floored it, losing him in town. Sarah gripped my arm. She's desperate, James. At the hearing, Nancy sat smug, her lawyer, Paul Reed, beside her. Judge Ellis called me first. I showed the deed, plate, and letter. This proves my grandpa owned the cove, I said. Neighbors testified. Ellen's voice cracked. Tim's hand shook. Sarah presented the ledger and sheriff's files. Nancy's face reddened as Paul whispered frantically. Then Nancy stood. Carter's lying, she yelled. His grandpa was a crook. Judge Ellis raised an eyebrow. Prove it, Mrs. Larson. She froze, then blurted. I paid for that dock. It's mine. The room gasped. Sarah leaned in. She just admitted it's on James's land. Ellis nodded, taking notes. But as we left, a sheriff pulled me aside. Your cabin's on fire, he said. My heart stopped. Sarah grabbed my keys. Let's go. We sped back, fearing Nancy's final blow, praying we weren't too late. Smoke stung my eyes as we reached the cabin. Flames licking the porch where Grandpa's old swing once hung. Nancy Larson's cruelty had gone too far, but I'd turn her fire into her downfall. If you love stories where justice burns bright, hit subscribe. This one's ablaze. Sarah and I ran toward the cabin, but firefighters were already there, hosing it down. It's under control, one said. Started on the porch, didn't spread. My relief mixed with rage. I knew Nancy did this. A neighbor, Ellen, hugged me. We saw Greg near your place before the fire. Sarah's jaw tightened. That's attempted arson. We called the sheriff, who found a gas can in the woods with Greg's prints. At the courthouse, Judge Ellis was wrapping up. Sarah burst in, showing the sheriff's report. Nancy's assistant torched James's cabin, she said. The room buzzed. Nancy stood, pale. I didn't tell him to. Judge Ellis glared. You're in deep, Mrs. Larson. I showed the dock plate and ledger again. She stole $1.2 million and burned my home to hide it. Neighbors shouted. She fined me for my kids' bikes. My shed's illegal. Ellis slammed his gavel. Enough. Mrs. Larson, your HOA's dissolved. Carter owns the cove. Case closed. Nancy screamed. You can't, but deputies escorted her out. A twist hit outside. Lisa Harper ran up. James, the county found Nancy's condo loan was fake. Her company's bankrupt. My jaw dropped. Her $3 million dream was dust. Back at the cabin, I found Grandpa's carved fish, scorched but intact. Sarah smiled. He's still with you. But Greg was still loose, and I feared one last move. That night Tom called. Greg's at the dock, cutting cables. We raced over. Greg froze, knife in hand. Nancy paid me, he muttered, dropping it. Sarah recorded his confession. The sheriff cuffed him. The next day, neighbors met at my cabin. Ellen proposed new bylaws to protect us. No more Nancys, she said. I agreed, feeling Grandpa's strength. But a final twist waited. Nancy's lawyer, Paul, called. She's fled town, he said. Left a note confessing everything. I grinned. Her empire was gone, and I had my home. Sunlight hit the lake as I stood on my dock, holding Grandpa's scorched wooden fish, knowing Nancy Larson's reign was over. But her final trick would test my resolve. If you love stories where truth triumphs, hit subscribe. This ending's worth it. After Greg's arrest, Clearwater Lake felt alive again. Neighbors gathered at my cabin, laughing, planning a potluck. Sarah hugged me. "We did it, James." I smiled, but Paul Reed's call about Nancy's confession nagged me. "She left something at the HOA office," he'd said. Curious, I drove there with Tom. Inside, we found a locked safe, cracked open. A note in Nancy's handwriting read, "Carter, you win. But I'm not done." My gut twisted. Inside was a fake deed, claiming my cove was hers, dated yesterday. She tried one last scam, Tom said. Sarah called Judge Ellis, who voided it. "Nancy's facing fraud charges," he said. "She's broke, hiding in Florida." Relief hit, but a bigger twist came. Ellen rushed up. The dock sinking. At the lake, the HOA's fancy dock, on my land, was tilting, cables cut by Greg. Neighbors cheered as it sank, boats drifting free. Nancy's cash cow's gone. Karen laughed. I grinned, seeing Grandpa's justice. That night, we held the potluck. Tim shared how Nancy threatened his kids. Ellen gave me Grandpa's old lake map, found in her attic. "He marked every inch of your cove," she said. My eyes welled up. Sarah and I walked to the shore. "I'm staying," I told her. "This is home." She nodded, eyes soft. "Me too." A final twist hit, Lisa texted. "Nancy's arrested. Tried selling fake deeds online." I laughed, free at last. We formed the Clearwater Owners Group, with fair rules. The moral? Stand up to bullies and family, blood or chosen, gives you strength. As I fixed the cabin, I hung Grandpa's fish by the door, a reminder. Fight for what's yours. If you love this, hit that bell for more stories of winning against the odds.